Hey, everybody. Sorry, I was reading a prompt on my screen about moderators. I'm not super versed in YouTube Lives, so we're about to see how this is going to go. I've done a few in the past, and they've had some issues, so we'll see if we can keep from those. But I'm looking to grow the channel, and so I thought I'd open up and here on a Saturday afternoon, open up the floor and have a little Q&A session, a little time that maybe we could talk together and meet with each other. Certainly, the channel's been growing quite a bit, especially over on Instagram. A lot of growth over on Instagram, and that's been bleeding over here onto YouTube as well. And so I thought I would just take today and talk about the story of how this whole thing got started, and then watch for the chats. And if anybody comes on here and anybody jumps in and wants to ask questions, then feel free to do that, and I'll try to respond to those, and maybe we can have a little Q&A time, especially if there's been any part of my content that you would like to discuss. Certainly there are times that within these studies that there's controversial things, there's hard things, hard questions, and so would love to be able to answer some of those. I know it doesn't look like it on the front end, like there's a whole lot of comments, but from my side, there are comments that just come through on all those videos. There's so many videos that come through all day long, and I just can't spend all day writing and replying to every one of those comments and questions. So this could be a good time that maybe we could do that. So I'll just start out with maybe just where we started, like where this whole thing started with the whole truth, and how we got to where we are right now, and what's coming in the future. What's the kind of the plan going ahead? And then if you guys have questions, feel free to drop them in there, and I'll see if I can look down and read them. And I plan on being on here for about, I don't know, half an hour or an hour or so. I don't know if it will go that long, but if it does, then great, so be it. So for me, this whole journey on YouTube actually started because my wife, who is my late wife, she passed away. She actually was doing YouTube. She had first she had a channel where she was doing a family vlog, and then she had a channel, a workout channel, and it was a very polite channel. It was not racy in any way. It was legitimately about helping women get in shape, and she had gone to school to be a personal trainer, and she had this whole goal in mind of helping women to get in shape, and she wanted to do that here locally, but then also online. And so that's where she started on YouTube. And I was looking for a means to teach through the entire Bible, and that actually came from that came from my heart to teach the Bible. And I'm a pastor, and I teach these expository in an expository way, where I pick a book of the Bible and then I preach through or teach through that whole book of the Bible from the beginning of that book all the way to the end. But I really wanted a platform to teach through the entire Bible, and I wasn't looking to write a commentary. And so because I wasn't looking to write some sort of a commentary on the whole Bible, I wanted to have some platform where I could teach. Now, when I say a platform, y'all, I was thinking completely locally. I was trying to figure out how on Sunday mornings or on Wednesday nights to teach the Bible and start in Genesis and just travel the entire Bible. And logistically, it just wouldn't work. I mean, unless I tried to have like 2 Bible studies a day, one in the morning and one in the evening, and, invite people to church and do that 7 days a week, the process was just going to take so long to try to teach through in a one-on-one, me with a group of 4, 5, or 6 people. And then that's also not to mention the fact that, keeping any amount of people that regular to say, oh, well, we meet at this time every single day. That's not just work on me, but that's like a huge commitment on other people. And so I'm going back and forth on how am I ever going to be able to teach through the whole Bible? And my wife begins to present to me, why don't you just use YouTube? Why don't you make YouTube videos and put teaching the Bible onto YouTube, like what she was doing? And she didn't really have any great equipment, and I liked the idea, but I definitely began to use the excuse of equipment. I don't have a good camera. I don't have a good microphone. I don't have any lighting. I don't have a studio set up. It's going to look bad. It's going to sound bad. And I was using all these excuses but the idea was growing on me, and I was talking about it more, and I could do this and I could do that. And I'm real big about that. Like, I love to just talk through future plans. And so that's what I was doing. I was just talking through and talking through with her, and, day in and day out, it seemed like I'm constantly talking about YouTube. And if I did start a channel, and finally one day she had just had enough. It was January 1 of 2020. And she was really egging me on. Like, she was telling me I should totally do it, but I just wasn't activated. I just wasn't like firing. And so because of that, she just got tired of it. And so she eventually just got to the point that she takes her phone one day, or my phone really, and she kind of put it at me, and she's like, take this and do not say another word about starting a YouTube channel until you go downstairs and make a video. Genesis, introduction to Genesis. Get down there and make a video. You've been to school. You have the knowledge. You want to do it. You have the desire. Just go down there and go do it, and don't say another word about it. I don't want to hear anything more unless you go make a video. And that was the opening video. That video can be seen. The story I just told you, that can be seen if you go back to that very cringy looking video that did not have good sound or good lighting or any sort of a backdrop or a stage. It's like in my basement with my guitars hanging on the wall behind me, where I used to teach guitar lessons. And that's where I sat down and began to teach through the whole Bible. And that's where this idea came from. And so I had all of these ideas. I had all of these ideas of what I wanted to do with the channel, but it started out with, I just wanted to make a video every single day and teach a little further through the Bible. And that's what I started doing. And that started in January of 2020, and then in August of that year. So I went for 8 months. I went strong every day. I didn't miss. I came down and I made my video, and I posted my video, and I was teaching through the Bible, and I was happy with it. And I had all these plans of all the ways we were going to grow that and all the ways we were going to do this cool stuff with it. And then August the 4th of that same year, she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And my goodness. And it was weird what happened there, because I was completely focused on YouTube. And in that time in 2020, I probably had like 35 followers. No joke. Like 8 months later, maybe there was like 35 people subscribed to the channel on YouTube. And I wasn't on any other platform. But in an effort to try to grow the channel, I had started a Facebook page. And so I started a Pastor Justin Walker Facebook page that I was going to link over here to The Whole Truth here on YouTube. That was kind of the idea, was there would be Pastor Justin Walker, kind of interactive, the person on Facebook, and then there would be the channel, The Whole Truth on YouTube. And then she got diagnosed and she got sick. And so I went on that Facebook channel, and I told everyone that Sarah that she had been diagnosed with cancer. And when I told everyone that was the first time that I had a video kind of blow up. It was that video. I was like sitting in my car 2 days later, and I was explaining why it was that I wasn't going to be making those videos, and why it was that I wouldn't be, like, people wouldn't see me making those and posting about those. And it was a very legitimate post. Like, I was just trying to say, like, hey, we'd been on this. And it was on a local level for me, because there were people who were here locally who, people who were here locally, and they were watching and following along, and they were keeping up with what I was doing, and they were talking about it. So I was just trying to make an announcement to them to say, hey, this is what's happened. And that video, like, it just started growing in numbers. All of a sudden, 10,000 people had seen it, and then 25,000 people had seen it, and there's all these comments, and the channel started to grow. But I had just announced that I wasn't going to be filming, or at least not daily, the way that I was. And so I stopped filming. By the way, let me pause here and just look. Like, am I missing something? I think I disconnected for just a second. Whoops. Don't press the learn more button down here, because I think it just disconnected me and reconnected me. If you hear my dog snoring, he just decided to come down. That's Marmaduke, and he's my buddy. He's been with me through everything. And so, Marmaduke is just like, he's great, but he'll snore. I don't know if I could get him in the shot. You want to come over and try to say hi? You want to come say hi to everybody? Come on. Oh, okay. All right. Come on. Come say hi. Yep. There. Okay. All right. I know. Say hi to everybody. Okay. Can you hop down? Can you go back upstairs? Go on. Go back upstairs. Okay. That was Marmaduke. He's a great guy. All right, where was I in this story? If you have any questions or have any thoughts, I'd love for this to be a Q&A. So I don't know if for some reason, if I've done something wrong. I told you I'm not super versed in these live streams. So, but I'd love to see you down in the chats. I'd love to get to meet with you. But let's see. So I was going to pause shooting the videos. But then this one video is just kind of taken off, and people wanted to know what was going on, and they wanted an update, and we had people all over the country that were praying for my wife, and I loved that. And so under her encouragement, you get through those kind of shocking moments when you get that type of devastating news, and that's when we just decided to pick it back up. Life had to keep moving forward. We had to try to keep moving forward with life, and so this was a goal that I had, and we had obviously together. And so some of those, like in the middle videos of me, like trying to make these Bible study videos every single day. Well, I wasn't really doing every single day at that point, but I was definitely trying to continuing to teach through the whole Bible. And here my wife was sick, and my life was just crazy. It was chaotic. Hey, look at there. There's the Kentucky curmudgeon. I did survive camp. Yeah. Survive is the word. There's one thing that happens at camp, which is lack of sleep. So anyways, I'm just going over the story right now of how I got here, how I got here on YouTube. And so, the end result of this whole kind of deal was that I was fighting through to try to keep the channel going, because we didn't want to give up on life when my wife was sick. We wanted to still live and do the things that we would do while she was alive, and knowing that the cancer was a severe diagnosis, but we were certainly looking for alternative methods and looking for healing, and ultimately that did not happen. And so there was this kind of slowdown. I started out real strong, January to August, really strong, making these videos. And then August and forward through that year, they got really weak. And then she passed away. And when she passed away the following March, she got diagnosed in August. And then when she passed away in March, it just devastated my whole world. It devastated everything that I was trying to do, literally anywhere. I just shut down. And I know I was going through the motions of things, and I was doing the things that I know God had called me to do, but the enthusiasm behind life dwindled to just about nothing. Anything I was doing it because there was an obligation or because there was a calling on my life, but there was no enthusiasm for it, and that kind of happened with this channel. So it just kind of floundered for about a year and a half. I just didn't put in a whole lot of effort. I tried, but it's just hard when you're in that depressed state. When you're in a state of depression, when you lost somebody. I had a wonderful relationship with my wife, and when she passed away, I just I hope this doesn't sound like, what's he doing being a preacher or something, but I'm telling you, really hard to get up in the morning, really hard to find the motivation to keep going when you've lost the person that you love. And just for me personally, I can get a little personal with you here on a live stream and tell you that for me personally, a lot of that came from the fact that I felt like, Lord, I've lived a clean life. I've lived a good life. I've not lived this sinful life. I don't understand why he didn't heal her. I wanted him to heal her so bad. and prayed for that so fervently, and thousands of people were praying for that so fervently that she would be healed, and God chose not to heal her. And it was hard for me to process that. It is one thing to read of those scriptures, to read those things in the Bible that say that you should count it all joy when you enter into tribulation and when you go through various trials. It's one thing to read that and to understand the logical side of that, like why God would say that, but to live that, the rationale of that, to have to come to grips with we don't mourn as those who have no hope. That was a tough thing to reconcile. And it was really tough even more because my life was on display. Not necessarily here, but certainly on a local level. Here I am, the pastor that lost his wife. And what happened in that year and a half when I wasn't doing a whole lot on the channel, the church started to just grow really exponentially. I mean, we went from having, 30 people in church, 35 people in church, to 60 people in church, 70 people in church by the time that she passed away. And then we just skyrocketed. 2021, we started that year. Somebody had a count that year in our church. We started with the opening Sunday that year. There was 42 people in the church. And the closing Sunday of that same year in 21, there was 75. So there's all these new people and all these new faces and all these new families, and they were all watching. And some of you maybe even know that. Maybe you were a part of that, watching to see like what's going to happen with this guy, and even some people voice things like that. They're like, oh, Justin, we're watching, we're cheering for you, but we don't, you're going too hard. You need to take more time off. You're gonna burn out, or there was like a kind of an anticipation of failure that was going to happen. And so fighting through that, coming back to this channel, that's why this channel kind of floundered for a little while, and it just kind of sat for a little bit. And I would I'd make a video once a week, once every other week. There's even a comment on one of the videos where one of the guys that was following early on, I can't remember what his name was, but I only had a few followers at the time, so I could have named them all then. But this guy, he says, "Come on, Justin, it's been 3 weeks. Can't you make one video?" And I was like, "Oh man, I need to make a video," but it was hard. It was hard to find the motivation after I had lost her. But then over time, when the kind of process of grief had gone through, then I started to remake the videos. It started with more of the process, but then the enthusiasm began to come back when I had those memories coming back of all the parts that Sarah, my wife, had played to get me to come down and start a platform, a social media platform of teaching through the Bible. And so, there's a credit there that I give to her. Certainly, this is a calling from the Lord on my life to teach His Word, and that's what I want to do. I don't want to discredit that at all. God is far and above anything any human would ever do. But she definitely played a role. The Lord used her to play a role in my life to encourage me to come down and make videos. And by the way, my wife, for as much as I love her, didn't just love, it's not past tense like loved her, I love her even right now. And as much as I talk about the encouragement she gave me here, she was not super encouraging if she didn't like something. So I have a saxophone over there, and I want to learn how to play the saxophone. And she did not like that, and she was not nice about that. I would encourage her, but hey, come down, come listen to this song, and then she'd come down and she would laugh at me and poke fun at me or whatever. She wasn't always encouraging about things that she didn't like. So for her to encourage me so much to say, hey, go and start a YouTube channel, do this here online. It was a big deal for her. It meant that she liked it, and it meant something to her, and it meant something to us. So that's how it started. Like, that's how this whole thing started and got to where we are now. And now the enthusiasm is like sky high. I am so enthusiastic. I got new things that are starting now in the channel, and that is that not only am I teaching through the Bible in a video format that is then recorded and there for years and years and years for everybody to see, but second thing there is I've got a little bit more of a groove going right now of getting us through the Bible. This was never meant to be like a 60-year endeavor. I know you might look at it like, man, he started in 2020, now it's 24, and he's just in the book of Joshua right now. I get that, but I promise there is a plan in place to get us through the Bible a little faster than that. I'm hoping my plan right now is the hope right now is something to the tune of about 3 more years or 4 more years, and I should have the entire Bible. I should have a video for every chapter of the Bible. And then accompanying those, I have been writing a ton. And so what I'm doing is I'm running Bible studies that go along with the video Bible study. So there is a written, I'm not writing it as a commentary. It's not like that. It's more like notes and some questions. And the reason I'm putting the questions on there is because there's a really cool thing happening right now. And that is, I know of at least 3 Sunday school classes or small groups, whatever you're calling your group, Sunday school or life group or small group or whatever. There are 3 groups right now that use my videos, my Bible study videos, as their study guide. They sit down and they watch the video together, and then they discuss what we had talked about in the video, and they discuss it in their small groups. I know of 3 groups that are doing that right now. 2 of them are from Texas, and I only know that because they sent me letters, and I got letters to the church. I went into church, and there was letters sitting on my desk, and I opened up the letters, and they were from people who had been blessed by this ministry, by me making these Bible study videos. So cool is that. By the way, if you're joining, I see some more people joining on here. If you're joining and you have questions for me about the channel, about plans, about the Bible, about something that I've taught on, I would love to answer those questions. Feel free to leave me a comment. I can see them down here. I have to look down so it looks funny, but whatever, you get the idea. But I can read those questions and answer those. So I'd love to do a little Q&A with you guys if you have any questions for me. But right now I'm just going over, we talked about the kind of history of the channel, but now where the channel is going. And so those Bible studies right now, they're all available over Patreon. That's where I'm putting them. I'm posting them over there. And the reason I'm doing that is not to blockade them from anybody being able to get them. The videos are free on YouTube. The written ones, it's taking a lot of work for me to make those. And so to be completely honest, it's a means of trying to support the channel. So I have those over on Patreon for that reason. And not only that, but there is a goal in mind, which is that as I finish the books, I'll be able to take all of these studies that I've written one at a time, and I'll be able to put them into a Bible study book, physical printable book, printed book. I'm hearing a lot about, I'm new to these things. Sorry, I just bumped that and I shook the camera, but I'm kind of new to these things, but I'm trying to put them on Amazon's print on demand so that we can take those written Bible studies and then we can have them to go along with each of the videos. So the end result of this could be that here are all of these books of the Bible, that I have videos for every single one, every single chapter, and then we have study notes and study questions to go along with every one, that you can order a physical book, and if you are sitting down in a Bible study group, then you can go through those. So I think that that's a really cool thing, and that's kind of where the channel's headed for right now. The goal of making a video and having commentary for every single book of the Bible and teaching through the books of the Bible, and then engaging the audience with God's word, actually being in his word. I think that there's kind of a thing among Christians where we say that we read the Bible, but don't really, I think that in some ways we don't really read through. In a lot of ways we don't really read through. Number one, let's just be honest. A lot of Christians just don't touch their Bibles. We are spoiled, especially, I say Christians, but I should really say American Christians. We are so spoiled that we have God's word so readily available to us that we just don't actually read it. And by the way, a lot of Christians get called on the carpet for that. Social media and Google and AI make it really easy for people to challenge the Bible. And if you're not versed in the Bible and you're not reading the Bible, then those really tough questions can really stump a person where they don't know what to say and they don't know how to answer. And then they feel like, well, maybe they just shouldn't read at all. Just like it's like a cycle that like they don't read, and then because people question some hard questions, then they end up not reading even more. I think the second way that people handle that is they handle the Bible in like one verse at a time. Here's these letters that are written in the epistles, and yet Christians come in and read one verse, and they feel like, oh yeah, I read the Bible, but they read a verse. Or they hear a verse of the day. Even I do a verse of the day. Like I'll do a couple of verses every night on Instagram. I'll sit down and I'll read a couple of verses. And there's a whole nother reason for that, which maybe I'll talk about here in a minute. But, that was a totally separate thing that happened over on Instagram. It really started on YouTube, and then it was Facebook, and then Instagram came later. But the reason, the motivation to get people into God's Word is so that we can find out, how does it apply to our lives? And then I would give you another thing for the 11 people that are on here watching. But can I give you some really good advice about reading the Bible and applying it? It's more than just reading. It's not just read the Bible and then saying how does this apply? But I would challenge you to really think this. How can you respond? How can you respond to what God said in His Word? So I have to, number one, I can't know what He says if I don't read it. So that's the reason. There's a reason for the channel and reading through the Bible. So I need to know what He says. I need to know why He said it. In the theological world, we call this lower criticism. There's higher criticism and there's lower criticism. And I'm going to give you a little theological insight there to say higher criticism, bad. We don't like higher criticism. Higher criticism says, Moses didn't write all of Genesis. These are, this part of Genesis isn't written by Moses, and this part of Isaiah isn't written by Isaiah, or this part of Daniel couldn't have been written by Daniel. Daniel didn't write that. And they come up with reasons via original languages and words that were used to try to say that Moses didn't write Genesis or Isaiah didn't write Isaiah or whatever. You get the idea. That's higher criticism. We don't agree with that. We agree with what we see from the Bible. We agree that Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Bible, and we believe that Daniel wrote the book of Daniel, and that Samuel wrote the books of 1st and 2nd Samuel and Judges, and we agree with that. We understand that. So that's higher criticism, judges the Bible and says, do I think this is true or don't think this is true? Lower criticism, this is good. Higher criticism, bad. We don't like higher criticism. Lower criticism, good. We like lower criticism. What is lower criticism? Lower criticism says who, what, when, where, and why. And it's that why, that's the important one. So lower criticism is saying who wrote it, who were they writing to, what was the surrounding area, why, where were they writing that, all of those questions answered, and then the last one being why. Why was the writer writing what he was writing to his audience? So if we're talking about Matthew, we want to know why Matthew wrote Matthew. I just saw a podcast the other day and somebody was questioning that. It was like Bill Maher, I think. And he's like, you do realize that most people, they know that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John did not write Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. This is just a known thing. No, Bill Maher was wrong. That's higher criticism. We don't like that. That's not good. It's not just that we don't like it. It's just not true. Their basis of denying Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John for writing Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, it's not good reasoning. Let me give you an example of that. Can I take a moment? Are y'all cool with me taking a moment and giving you an example of this? I hope you are. Genesis, if you were to take the book of Genesis and you were to say, well, Moses didn't write the book of Genesis, it was, they come down to these 4 different authors, and they get those 4 different Paul, you said, the Kentucky Curmudgeon said Paul wrote Hebrews. Yeah, I said it. Hey, I'm with you. I think Paul could have written Hebrews. Totally think that Paul could have wrote Hebrews. I won't fall on my sword over that. Whether I think he probably wrote Hebrews, it makes sense, especially with how he ended the book of Hebrews. It doesn't tell us that he wrote Hebrews, but that's an example of one that we don't know who wrote it, but we do know that the Bible says that Moses wrote Genesis. And the higher critics who would say, well, Moses didn't write Genesis, they would say that based on what name for God was used. So if it's the name Jehovah, then that's one writer. They would say that's one writer. They use the name Jehovah. If they use the name Elohim, well, then that's a different writer. And they had a couple of others as well. They have 4 different criteria for that. So every time they see Elohim, they're saying that's one writer. Every time they see Jehovah, that's another writer. And they use that as a means of saying, see, this was one writer, this was another writer. And they take that so far. Higher critics will take that so far as to say, like the book of Isaiah. I read a book when I was in seminary that said that 50 different authors wrote the book of Isaiah. That is utter foolishness. And to say the same thing about Genesis, if you were to pick apart, if we were to grab a Hebrew Bible and we were to pick apart Genesis, and we were to say of Genesis, like, okay, well, if this one says Jehovah, then that's one writer, and Elohim is another writer, you do realize you would have to swipe out like every other verse, and then all of the sudden Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 will become nonsensical. Like you literally could not, in Genesis 1, you would have to swipe away so many verses and so many lines because you're attributing one author or another author. It would become nonsensical. And that's only one example that I'm giving you to say we don't agree with higher critics. When somebody says, well, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John didn't write those books, or Moses didn't write Genesis, we disagree with that. We believe that Moses wrote the Pentateuch. We believe that Moses wrote the first 5 books. Or at least I can say, I shouldn't say we so much. I guess I can say I believe that. And that's what I'm going to be teaching. And I want to get to some of those comments. I see them coming through. Oh yeah, Kentucky Curmudgeon said the style of writing. We all have phrases and tales. Yeah, totally agree. And then by the way, Satisfied in Him says Columbus, Ohio here. Hey, cool, awesome. So glad that you guys here and you're joining me. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be on, but I definitely want to kind of talk about the channel and have a little Q&A. So if you guys have questions, you'll probably get me talking a little bit longer. But my point of bringing up that lower criticism is lower criticism is who, what, when, where, and why. And it's that why. We want to know the why. We want to know why that person wrote it. And then once we know that, once we know why God's inspiring the original writer, then we can say, how does that apply? How does that apply to me? How does that apply to you? I totally believe that God's word is applicable. Every bit of it. Every bit of it. I am always blown away when I get put in a predicament of reading some genealogy, some list of names, something tough in the Old Testament, and then the things that God reveals through those. If you really begin to dig, there are just golden nuggets buried all over the Bible. And if you'll get in it and you'll read it, you'll find those. And I try to bring those to light in this video series. And even when I teach in church, I go through entire books of the Bible. And we've had sessions where I've had to read some crazy list of names and the things that God brings to light out of those. I once had this guy at church, and first couple of times I came to the list of names, he's like, man, are you going to skip that chapter? And I'm like, no, man, we're not skipping chapters. We're going to do it. But it always makes me like a little bit nervous. And so as time went on and I had done a few of these, then one time I came up to one of those chapters and I was thinking, man, maybe I just want to, maybe we ought to skip this chapter. And then he looks back at me and he was like, no, we can't skip it. Like there's always such good information there. So, there's golden nuggets all throughout God's word and it's all applicable to us. But then you have to take that a step even further. Just because you know how it's applicable, the question is, how will you respond? What will you do with what you've just learned? As God, through his living word, is speaking to you, as the Spirit of God is speaking to you through his word, how will you respond to that? So I want to know the who, what, when, where, how, why. I want to know how that applies to me. And then I really want to ask myself, how can I respond to this? What should I do with this information that I've just gleaned, that I've just learned? Satisfied in Him says, I'm following you through the entire Bible. I love that. Thank you so much for following through the entire Bible with me. It's going to be a really awesome thing. And I don't know if you were on here to hear it a moment ago when I said that, the plan right now, I'm reworking the videos. I'm making the videos. When I say reworking the videos, what I mean by that is like this. I'm reworking those videos so that their video itself is a little bit longer, and I'm doing more versus really right now more like a whole chapter. The goal is to do a whole chapter every time I make a video, and the goal is to hopefully get this channel a little more self-sustaining. And then once I do that, my goal is actually to release all at once. I would love to film all at once and then release all at once, like maybe an entire book of the Bible. And as I get to some of those shorter books, it'll be a little bit easier to do that. So I know, like right now, you might look at it and go, well, you're not going to get through the rest of the Bible one chapter a day. You're not going to be able to get through the entire Bible in the next 3 years. You're correct, but that's only the starting point of making it so that I can't. The goal is to say another 3 years, maybe 3-4 years, to teach through the entire Bible, where we would have a video for every single book of the Bible. So I love that you guys are following along through that, and I hope that you'll come along each day, because that is the goal. Is that every day I would have another video coming out, Monday through Friday, I should say, every day, Monday through Friday. So another update on the channel. Another thing I'm trying is some new things like this live right here. This is the first time I think this is the first time I've ever gone live on The Whole Truth. Maybe I've done it before. I've done other live streams. I'm live at church all the time, and I've done some live streams for church. But for The Whole Truth channel, this is new to me. But I'm going to be trying some live streams, and I'm also going to be trying to take the weekends and to make some current event videos where I'm taking on some topics that are a little more current to things that we're seeing around us. So just like last week, I made a video about should Christians use AI, and is that Nephilim? Is that demonic? Is AI a demonic source? I used I used a video last week, or made a video last week, to talk through that, and I'll be doing the same thing. I'll be continuing to make videos on Saturdays and Sundays. The goal is to have some current event videos, and then Monday through Friday to have the going through the Bible. And right now we just started the book of Joshua. I don't know if you guys are in on that, if you've been doing the Joshua study with me, but we just started Joshua. And so it's a great time to join in. You could watch those earlier videos. I think we're on chapter 4, I think is what I posted yesterday, or day before yesterday. I was able to post chapter 4. And by the way, the only reason I missed my post yesterday is because I got bribed into going. I say bribed, I mean, nobody gave me anything out of it, but I went to church camp with the youth group from church, and Kentucky Curmudgeon, he comes to church with me, and he said, I'm glad to see that you survived church camp. It was rough. And so those kids are wild, and in a good way. I hope everybody knows I'm saying that in a good way, but it was such a great experience. I'm so glad that I got to go, but it did hinder the video from yesterday. So I think I posted Joshua chapter 4 on Thursday, and so we're just going to continue on with that. I'm hoping to do at least a chapter a day, and then as I get into those smaller books, I'm hoping to post those maybe multiple chapters or even a whole book all at once. I want to get down here. I see Sushi Nick says, my husband and I are following along through the entire Bible from Malaysia. How awesome is that? I probably just butchered your name if you're from Malaysia, so I'm sorry about that. But anyways, and then Satisfied in him and said, can't replace human creativity. Yeah, hopefully you saw that video. That's what I talked about was AI. That was one of the problems I said with AI was people are using that to take their creativity. That they're stealing their own creativity, their God-given creativity. We've been made in the image of God, and one of the things that God has given us in His image is the ability to create. We're creative people. We can't create something from nothing. That's not what I meant by create, but that we love to create. We're creative, and so we love to take things and make other things. We love to take sounds and make music. We love to take paint and color and make pictures. We love to do those things, and that comes from God. So I would. Even in this live stream, I would just go back to that and encourage you. Don't rob yourself of those things because there's some tool to supposedly make it easier. And something I didn't get into in the video, but I just had this conversation the other day, is the person who thinks that, well, AI can do it better. Well, maybe that's so, but you're still robbing yourself, even though maybe AI could write your paragraph better or write your thing better, or maybe some AI model could draw something better or whatever, but you're not getting any better if you do that. Like, there's a creativity thing, but there's also a progression. Like, we do something and we get better as we go. I'm not saying that all AI is bad, by the way. In that video, I tried to stress that. Like, I'm not all against it. I think that in certain ways, if it's helpful to you and your business or something, like, I'm not trying to say I'm totally against it. I'm just trying to say don't rob yourself of the creativity and the progression of learning that is available to you as a human being. Your brain was meant to develop. Your body was meant to grow. Like, you're made to progress and you're made to get better at things. And you'll never do that if you always are spoon-fed all the answers and given recipes right in front of you. So, yeah, anyways, I didn't mean for this to turn into the AI thing, although happy to talk about that if you guys have any questions or thoughts about that. So it is Q&A time. If you're joining me, if you're still on here, I see it looks like there's still 10 people on here right now. So if you guys have any questions for me about the channel, about what I'm doing or why I'm doing it, or maybe something from the Bible, something that I've said, I'd be happy to answer that. I'm so glad that you guys have stuck with me. Updates on Little Johnny signing his D1 wrestling scholarship from the free school. I'm not certain how to answer that, brother. I don't know exactly what you mean. Updates on Little Johnny signing his D1 wrestling scholarship from the school. From the free school. Okay, I'm not exactly certain what you mean, but I do know that we're opening a school at our church that is a tuition-free school, and it is open to the public. So it's not just for church members. We are opening for anyone who wants to come and to have a Christ-centered education for their children. And so really excited about that. That's on a church level, but we don't have any sort of sports programs as of right now. You know, this year, opening year, we're really trying to get our feet under us with, how to run a school. That's probably the easiest way to put that. But, most specifically, like, we've got curriculum things and schedule things and whatever. So that's what we're working on. There's no sports happening this year. Oh, he said, I'm sorry, I'm reading. Are y'all cool with me reading? Like, I don't know how to. He said, maybe this was way too soon to ask that question. Sorry. I'm not sure. And catch me tomorrow at church if you're there, and I'd love to talk to you about it and find out what you meant there. But I can tell you that if what you meant by that was this part of it, I can tell you that our goal is to have a full, like, it is going to be a school. And part of that will include sports. We want a Christ-centered education, and we want to have well-rounded children that have Christ in every aspect of their education and in their life. And we want to disciple young people from the youngest grades all the way through 12th grade. We want to have preschool all the way through. And so that is the end goal. And yes, the goal is to have sports and band and the whole thing. We're looking to build a church out on that property, or build a school out on that church property. That is the end goal. And so sports will definitely be a part of that. But it's not in this first year. It's just so much that we're already trying to put together. So, yeah, well, I hope you guys have enjoyed me coming live today, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. Should I do it again? Should I, keep up with the live streams? That's one of the things I'm thinking about doing on the weekends is doing live streams. Maybe the timing of it. These are questions I have. I was really working around. What about the timing of it? What part of the day should I do it in? And I know this is going to sound silly, but my analytics claim that there's a large part of my audience that is from like Australia, and so do I do those? If I do them late at night, then it's like morning for Australia, I think. I can't remember what the time difference is, but so trying to figure out the time to do those, that's one thing. And then those topics, is it interesting and good to talk live, or do you guys prefer the edited videos where I talk through it? So I'd love to get your opinions on those things, and what I could do here on the weekends, because like I said, the goal is to grow the channel. That's what I'm hoping to do, and I'm hoping to really build a connection with the audience, with you guys. This is a platform for me to do that, and I don't want to lose sight of that. Certainly the project of teaching through the Bible is there. That is the ultimate part of the project, but I want to be able to relate a little bit more, and I can't answer all the comments. Like I said, I can't spend all day every day answering all kinds of comments, but I could come on here and I can answer questions and I can answer comments on here. And I thought that that would be, maybe a means of doing that. So who knows? And by the way, y'all could also tell me, like, I don't know how this sounds. I hope it looks good. Like, I am really, really green at going live. I've got some people that are going to help me maybe develop that as we go. But as of right now, it's just like y'all are on my phone and this microphone right here and a little ring light above me. And, hopefully that's all coming across well. Let me see. I saw another question come through. Can you give us a preview of your sermon tomorrow? Can I give a preview? I don't. I have a girlfriend now. It's been 4 years, almost 4 years since my wife passed. I have a girlfriend now, and she does not even get previews to my sermon. She asks me all the time. She's like, "Can you give me a little preview?" So if I give you a preview, you're going to get me in trouble to some degree. So how about I'll give you the type of preview that I would give her, which is this. By the way, Kentucky Curmudgeon said you did great, so I really appreciate that. So preview goes like this. Daniel chapter 2. Okay, it's Daniel chapter 2, and there's going to be a big focus on verse 28. I read it earlier this week on Instagram, and it's where Daniel looks at Nebuchadnezzar, and he says, "There is a God in heaven who reveals secrets." And that verse just rolls me. Even right now, even when I read it, or just quote it right now, just the kind of chills that it gives me to think of Daniel standing before Nebuchadnezzar and looking at him and saying, "There is a God in heaven." By the way, that's coming off of the story. You can read it for yourself in Daniel chapter 2. That's coming off of Nebuchadnezzar trying to kill all of the wise men in Babylon because they can't tell him what his dream is. He tells all the people he tells the wise men to tell him his dream. He doesn't just want it. He doesn't tell them the dream and then say, "Give me the interpretation." He says, "Tell me the dream and then tell me the interpretation." And if that's not impossible enough, then he looks at him and goes, "And if you don't, I'm going to cut you into pieces and burn your houses into an ash heap." Nebuchadnezzar's just losing his mind, and Daniel steps in, and Daniel gives him the dream and the interpretation. But as he does, we won't get to the dream and the interpretation in tomorrow's sermon. That'll be for the following week. And by the way, here's a little cool preview for you. Daniel chapter 2, Daniel chapter 3, and Daniel chapter 4 are actually painting one complete picture. It's a really cool way to see what Nebuchadnezzar did. Maybe I could say it like this. Like, consider for a moment where Nebuchadnezzar was in the vision that he had, and then what did he do in the next chapter? Remember the statue? It's got all the different parts, like the gold and the silver and the bronze and the iron. Remember that statue, and then the clay mixed with the iron? Remember that? And Nebuchadnezzar had a part in that statue, and then look forward one chapter and look what he does. It's so crazy. The chapters are going to go together. We're going to, at least I'm going to try to paint this kind of whole picture. Sorry if I shook that camera again, but we're going to try to paint this whole picture. It's going to be really, really cool. I'm really excited about the next few weeks of Daniel. So I feel like God shows us more than he tells us. Amen to that. Yeah. So, all right. Well, Satisfied in Him and Kentucky Curmudgeon, thank you guys so much. Appreciate you all. Appreciate y'all coming along the channel with me. And it's been 47 minutes here on this live, so y'all stuck it out with me. I appreciate that. I'm going to hop off here for now and go enjoy the rest of my Saturday. Try to get a little bit of rest before Sunday church tomorrow. So, love you guys very much. Thank you for coming along and being a part of the channel with me. So, let me know. I know those comments will still be open, I think. After the video closes, I think you'll be able to give me some feedback. So I'd love some feedback on where the channel's going. And if you had any thoughts, maybe I can incorporate those. Who knows? So, all right, guys. Love you all. See ya.